So today I decided to make this video, kind of reflecting, thinking about my father and what exactly the example that he was trying to set for me and my kin. He was a very outspoken man, and he was a very brutally honest man. And I think now, where we at in this precipice in 2020, we need some brutal honesty. I don't know if anybody saw Dave Chappelle's video, 846, and there were some very interesting topics that he brought up, and it's very interesting to hear from other people's perspective. He referenced a couple other people like Candace Owens. Another guy that comes to mind is Officer Tatum. He's a YouTuber or whatever. And it's like these people, they don't understand the world that is, this world is changing. And it seems like it's a, how do you say it? It's like a old ways are dying, and new ways are starting to emerge. Now, some people may not like what I just said right there, and frankly, I think brutal honesty is something that needs to be taken in consideration. But with that being said, that does not mean that order should be something that is thrown away, so to speak, but as a new way of managing and governing people. I don't really think the problem that we're dealing with today is a racial problem. I more so think it's a problem of authority. Now, there's a couple ways we could go back and forth with this, right? So, we have a lot of liberal rules, and these liberal rules seek to undermine authority in its entirety by itself. And it doesn't seem that people are aware of that. We see something bad happen, and we're like, well, you should have just followed the rules. Well, I mean, your typical man that was brought up in a single parent home doesn't really understand rules per se, especially when giving authority. I mean, you can't even do that in school. You can't even really discipline your kid, really, to be honest with you. And then you send them out in the world, and there's this shock and awe when he or she is met with authority, and they don't comply quick enough. And this is mainly aimed at cops that impose order, and they do their normal job on a day-to-day basis. But there's a shift in the culture when it comes to understanding how to interpret rules, and I don't think we are honest with ourselves that that's a problem in our society. Excuse me, I'm sweating. I don't think we really acknowledge that. We don't think we really take in consideration that that's an issue. Also, we say it. It's there's in my opinion, a problem in policing. And the only reason I say this is because, you know, being part of this uncanny, being part of this fraternity of the armed forces, you become aware that there are rules for engagement. And in my observation, it seems that rules of engagement towards citizens is subpar when it comes to rules of engagement with foreign combatants. And I think myself and other people see that, and it makes people upset. I think it's more along the ways that they see that there's a more honorable way of dealing with people. And to be frank, and to be fair, right, there are videos you don't really get to see the whole premise of the of the ordeal, right? But just from the analysis, I mean, just from initial analysis, you would see that it would be looked upon as if the person that was in attempt was in question of being apprehended was not treated with dignity. Now I say that with a two-edged sword with me, right? Because there very well may be a possibility that this person provoked an action, and we don't see that. But what we see is on many accounts, it appears to be a police brutality problem. Law enforcement, they impose strong will on citizens, and they're not being held accountable. Now, I say that with a grain of salt, just knowing there are things that, the job is a very difficult job, and people don't really get the words of encouragement, the pat on the back, the positive reinforcement that they probably need to have on a, if not hourly, daily basis. But, people see that, and it angers them, right? Because we as Americans, we would like to think that we deal with people humanely, we deal with them honorably. And it doesn't seem like that's the rule of thumb when it comes to certain people. So, with that being said, I'd like to extend my hand to everybody, right? I have a problem with injustice with anybody. Doesn't really matter if it's black, white, Native American, anybody from the Americas, anybody from anywhere. If you're here, you're a taxpayer. It means you're a shareholder, and you are afforded the same rights as everyone else. I would think, and I am not here to trigger anybody, but I would think that people of European descent, the numbers show that there are more Caucasians being shot by policemen than anyone else. But yet, when it comes to looking at a problem in our country, we do not really believe it's a problem, and I think it is. I think we can see in the communities. I don't like to use black and brown. You know, they use in media and they use, but people of African descent, people of Mexican descent, they're seeing this more often than you think they should. I also want to address this notion of statistics and how statistics don't lie. And taking a statistics class is very easily to miscalculate or falsely calculate statistics. And I'll give you an example. So they have a national database where they say that blacks are more often higher criminality, and okay, all right, let's do that for a second, right? Just from analysis, if you broke down each zip code, right, because I think that would be fair to break down each zip code and classify crime from those zip codes. If you're talking about murder, you're going to have more black people that live in urban areas just because, they kind of don't like to be, in rural areas. They don't, they like to be in metropolitan areas. So there's going to be more crime there just because of the population density. Most of these people came from the South and they have no desire to go back to the South. Just because of all the stories of their forefathers. And that leads me to another thing. There are parts of America that still deal with racism. And this part of America, it's not all of America, but this part of America specifically, it is south of Missouri, south of Indiana, Missouri, and east of the Mississippi. So that's Missouri, Indiana, let's see, Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, the Carolinas, Florida, Virginia, and West Virginia, Tennessee, Kentucky, you name it, any of those places from the Atlantic Ocean to east of the Mississippi, they all have some type of stigma that goes behind it. And those stories, even me, the stories that my grandmother told me, they're very thought-provoking and they send chills down my spine. So, to be fair, these are things that we want to act like they don't happen. So today is today is June 15th. And over the weekend, even in the state of sunny California, they find 2 bodies of men being hung from trees. And this is 2020. And this is very, very painful. They also found one in Houston. So that's at least 3 within the last 72 hours. And my question is to America, what is really going on? Because I thought we've been through this, I don't think we had to deal with this anymore. I think we were like, all right, that's wrong. We're not going to do it anymore. And to make more insult to injury, they're classifying them as suicides. So they're not even going to investigate them. And that's problematic. But as I said in the beginning of this video, I want everybody to know that I am pro-America. I am pro-advancement for excellence for all people. It doesn't matter if you're white, you're black, Native American, Mexican American, it doesn't matter. In this fight that's going on the street, I want you to not be misconstrued I am a man of order. I do not condone damaging property, assaulting people, creating, um, autonomous zones in Washington State. I don't condone any of that. But I will say this is that every man, woman, child, regardless of your creed, your, if you want to call it race, we're all the same people. But if you want to go there, all right, everybody, that orientation, they deserve to be treated with human dignity. And I think if we can have some type of dialogue, and I'm putting this out here because there are those that don't want to have dialogue. And for everyone's sake, we should have dialogue because I think that there are more similarities in all of us. And I think we all want the same thing. There are going to be some that want to have the unfair advantage, and you're not going to be able to do that. There are also police officers that actually do the right thing. And we need to give them we need to make sure that we're not imposing judgment on people that don't deserve that judgment. It's not, life is not fair, but we as people, we can make it fair. So, meanwhile, while we are arguing about this, Black Lives Matter, and it's a legitimate cause, but I worry about the money and where it comes from. So I had a conversation with my uncle, and we made a correlation between the Arab Spring and what's going on now. Now, things are not as violent as people reported back in '92 during the Rodney King riots. However, there is uprisal in every part of the country, and it's something that's very unprecedented. It's not even just in our country, it's in Western Europe. And it reminds me of a parallel of Arab Spring and how they brought down old systems. Now, me as a veteran, after 9/11, we were called to fight. And we were called to fight against our way of life. The slogan was, we need to protect and defend our way of life to make sure that those foreign entities, seen and unseen, would not come to our borders, not undermine our way of life, and not bring down what we've built up. And as us as Americans, I think we need to really, before we start picking sides, even I am for the advancement of all people. If my brother's hurting, we all should be hurting. And I'm not saying it as a color thing. I'm saying it as, if my white brother's hurting, if my Mexican American brother's hurting, my Native American brother's hurting, I'm hurting too. And I feel like it's a responsibility of honorable people to make sure that there is justice served and these people voices are being heard. So I reserve my right to support certain entities because I don't know what they stand for. What I will say is, this is very, this is it's a tough one, but this is my stance. My stance is that I believe in the fair treatment of all people, my people. black people, right? I stand for that. I stand for the fair treatment of all people. That's black, white, Native American, Mexican American, any type of person that is considered American. I mean, there's 193 countries. If they're considered American and they're treated wrong, I support them being treated fairly and them given the opportunity to voice their opinion and their opinion to be heard. My concern is with American leadership, we don't really listen. We kind of just shove things down people's throats. And, it works for foreign entities, but it's not going to work in our own backyard. And if it is, it's not right. We have a responsibility to treat everybody right, and that's what makes us strong. If you consider America a chain, if there's any weakness in any of those chains, the whole chain breaks. We need to make sure that we ensure that each link is properly lubricated, properly maintained to ensure that we are strong. Now, going back to what I was saying about making sure that we as people don't lose our way, right? It appears one of the parties in question that supported the Arab Spring is also supporting Black Lives Matter, supporting Antifa, and coming to this revelation that it really requires, it's upon us that call ourselves leaders, that we have to look at and really evaluate what are we saying to people when we're ignoring them. So I'll take myself as an example. Well, if a person gets hurt or a person is harmed, what did he do to get harmed? The videos seem like they would say everything for themselves, but like I said, there's no, we don't know the plot. We just know what's happening. So you would think that that's all you would need. And I guess a lot of times we're not, to be fair, we don't always have the premise. However, if we say that we're about order, and we truly believe that, the people that enforces law, they have to be and I don't know if I'm asking too much of them, but if they enforce law, they have to be the ones that operate on a higher plane when it comes to decency, when it comes to honor, and when it comes to preservation of life. And I don't see that. Also, us as people, if we want to be treated with decency, we have to give people the inclination that we deserve that decency. And I don't see that either. I just see somebody pointing fingers back and forth. I think it would be foolish to defund the police. I think we could potentially find a better way of trying to mitigate the chaos that we're witnessing on a daily basis. That's what it seems like. It seems like we're seeing it on a daily basis now. So I guess what I'm saying is I don't know what the right answer is. I know one thing: I stand for what is right, and I oppose what is wrong. The people that are protesting about Black Lives Matter, I don't necessarily support Black Lives Matter as a movement, but I do support Black Lives Matter as my brothers and sisters that are trying to make an honest dollar, trying to do the right thing, and just trying to make it through this crazy life. I do acknowledge that all lives matter. My Mexican American brothers, my white brothers, if we want to, like I said, it's all the same race, but if we want to go there, they all matter. They all matter to me. And regardless if you wear a uniform or not, everybody needs to go, everybody deserves a right to go home to their families at the end of the day. Now, how we figure that out, I don't know. But we need to figure that out, and we need to figure that out quickly. Because yes, we've always been, the top dog, but even the top dog can't take on the whole world. And the whole world is watching.